Bum 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum 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 bum. All right, please continue to pray for me by leaving a like on this video. I'm feeling confident that I'm going to be moving out of the Phoenix area soon. I've kind of already started to mentally check out of Phoenix. And so next week I'll be deciding if Houston is the right place to move. But within the next year, I'm probably going to be out of Phoenix. And I can sum up why I want to leave the Phoenix area in one story. It was last summer. It's 115, degrees. I was recovering from long COVID. And at the time, I was living alone in a micro studio up north of Scottsdale. And it was kind of almost a food desert, I want to say. And I was ill. One day, I somehow managed to get in my car and drive to a local grocery store. It's a Fry's Marketplace. It's owned by Kroger's. And among other things, I got about 5-6 bananas, and I was planning to sit in the Starbucks area to eat it. I was disoriented, dehydrated. When I got out of the store to walk toward the Starbucks, I realized that they were closed. I don't know what happened. Renovations or something like that. And so I go back into the main store to sit on their mobility scooters. And the security guard was very hostile to me. First, he outright blurted out to asking me to leave without even finding out what was going on. And when I tried to explain to him, he almost didn't want to let me talk. Somehow I managed to get the idea that I was recovering from COVID in there. And the only reason he backed away from me was because I had said the word COVID. Had I been recovering from chemotherapy, had I been, hurt, right? Had I twisted my ankle in the store, or had I been in any other circumstance, right? He could have cared less. I could have been recovering from chemotherapy. He probably would have dragged me out of the store. And so it really hurt. And that wasn't the only circumstance where I felt all alone. It's one thing to be alone in terms of relationship alone. It's another to be alone in the sense that you're on your own, right? I can tolerate the first one. I cannot tolerate that second one. And it was very upsetting. I wanted to die at that moment. And I don't know how I got through that. I was teaching at Phoenix College. I don't know how I got through the semester. The truth is that I probably buried my head in the work to get through the semester because I couldn't think about how the outside world was treating me. I got very high reviews that summer too. The truth is that I probably buried my head. I have a roommate who's an alcoholic. I sometimes, the way he drinks is kind of like the way I sometimes bury my head in my work. And it's maddening, and also it causes me to miss opportunities because I'm constantly worried about how I'm going to defend myself next. And when you're playing defense in life, that's it. You're going to miss career opportunities, you're going to miss personal opportunities. And unfortunately, ever since moving to Phoenix, I've been constantly playing defense with my life, with my careers, with, for a time I still live with the owner of a place, but at least we have good chemistry, right? But I was living with the owner of at that previous home, and this constant playing defense is destroying me. And to give you an idea of how badly for a long time, I didn't want to go to that same grocery. I still haven't been there, but I don't live there anymore. But for the rest of my time living in North Scottsdale, I didn't want to go to that grocery store because I worried. I had already recovered from COVID. It was wintertime already, but I didn't want to. I'm not a person who forgives very easily, and I didn't want to run into him again and make a scene of myself. I've since learned to make good rapport with people before COVID happened, before any of those things happened, right? So, for example, I teach at Glendale Community College. Every day I arrive there, I make it a rule to always say hello to the campus police, to say hello to the janitors, the other colleagues in other departments, to students that, not necessarily just my students, to say hello, you know, wish them a good weekend or whatever the situation is, right? And maybe even find out a little bit about them. Right now, tomorrow the Super Bowl is being played, and everybody's hating on the Chiefs now because they've won 2 in a row, and I think they're jealous of Taylor and Travis. But and find out what their favorite team is and all that, and it just builds good rapport, right? Because sooner or later, I'm going to get another long COVID again. Sooner or later, I'm going to get my heart broken again. Sooner or later, right? These are only a matter of when, not if, right? Sooner or later, I'm going to have a chemotherapy, and the more of these rapports that I build, the easier it is to be tolerated when something doesn't go 100%, right? So I treat it almost like putting some, almost like an insurance policy, right? Every day when I go in and I shake hands with somebody and say hello, it's like paying a small insurance premium, so that when these bad things happen, that I'm not going to run into hostility, right? That's how I treat it. But at the same time, things like that. I don't know if any of my viewers are from another city, another country, or another culture. Chime in. I mean, does it happen where you live? I mean, I can kind of see this also happening in some of the other cities I lived in. I lived in New York. I lived in Seattle. Seattle more so. I think New York would be more understanding. Although I was in New York when I ran into another difficulty. I have food allergies. One day I was sitting in a cafeteria of some sort. I can't remember what place that was, but somebody had spilled something on my hands. I really needed to wash it off. And the store was very hostile to me about letting me use the restroom. Finally, I barged into just behind the counter. I knew they had a sink just to wash, and the cashier was yelling at me. I said, sorry, but thank you, and I left without hearing what they had to say. But so I can kind of see that happening. I just use your good judgment, right? I was well dressed and all that. I just needed to wash my. I even told them that I have food allergies. I mean, this is one of those things where too many people just abuse their powers without really thinking about what they're doing, right? And so guess what? The rest of my time in New York, that was the only story I like to talk about. They probably lost a lot of business just to save, 5 cents worth of water or whatever it was, right? Just to not have to be nice. This is the Peter Like Show. Bum, 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 bum. The Peter Like Show. Bum, 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 bum.